Okay, y'all know me, I'm Elin Jacks, and I'm glad to see, are you a new face?
I've been here previously, but it's been a while.
Okay, so, I'm Elin Jacks, and most of you all know each other. What was I going to tell you? We meet the first Tuesday of every month, pay the church a monthly little rent amount, so we get a small donation and keep this going. But the topic tonight is crop circles, and obviously we all knew that or you wouldn't be here. And when I mentioned it to Joanne, I'm going to tell on you, Joanne, I mentioned that a year ago, and you said, oh, those are just hoaxes. You said that.
I still say it. Stand by it.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, certainly there were some that were hoaxes. And these guys said, yeah. They started thinking of some publicity, and they get real famous, and they went out there in the middle of the night and stomped around. But then there was some, obviously a lot of publicity in the 80s and 90s that we saw and heard. You don't hear about it as much anymore, but the crop circles are still happening. It's not like they happened once and they were hoaxes and they're over. They've been going on for centuries. They've been in China, they've been in Canada, they've been in Kansas, they've been in Romania and Bulgaria, and most of the famous ones are in southern England. They seem to have something to do with the energy patterns in the earth. But the hoaxer guys, this is what was really funny, because they were such cocky little dudes. And the serious researchers got down and started talking to them and said, well, what about the ones that happened in, because they started doing their hoaxes in, I don't remember which year it was, but let's say in the 80s, let's say 85. They couldn't explain the crop circles that came in 1979. They said, oh, were there ones back then? And they couldn't explain the musical tones that came on over the crop circles. They couldn't explain the little globes of light. They couldn't explain a lot of things that were observed and documented. So finally, and there were a lot of the researchers who, like Joanne, who's a smart, investigative lady, they also were smart, investigative. They said, they're man-made. I mean, the more they investigated, the more they said, you know what? Human beings couldn't do this. They happen in seconds. And we're going to show some YouTube video of some of the circles. This is one of them. These things cover hundreds of, several times, sometimes thousands of square yards, and they happen in seconds. And they're all over, and they go away. I mean, the crops come back up, and the next year there's more in that same field. I mean, they don't just happen once. I mean, fields are fertile ground for crop circles, but they're incredibly complex. So I'm going to show you some things. I've got to give credit to Timothy, who prompted me to look at some of the YouTube offerings that I didn't know were there. I have a wonderful book that has a lot of it in it, but it's a whole lot more fun to look at it on YouTube, so thank you for that, Tim. And John, who put it on DVD, so we can bring it here and share it. So I have to share the billing with Timothy and John. But anyway, let's show the YouTube part.
I'll give you the credit so it works.
So we'll all be on the same page. And those pictures we've been seeing were all
You're sitting up high, too.
very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes it
It's
more.
just too lazy to pull the chair down.
So this is lazy survey.
Where are these?
These are, I think, all in England.
But they're all in the same place evidently, because they're all done in the field, they have the same pattern in it.
No, those patterns are called ley lines. They're the tractors that go in the fields that leave those
Ley
lines.
lines went from point to point on the face of the earth.
Those are tractor lines.
Tim.
They're all over the place. All the fields have those. The crop circles tend to be around them, but they're not, I don't know. There's energy lines, and then I think those parallel lines are some kind of equipment lines.
The parallel lines are the ones I was talking about.
Yeah, I think those are equipment tracks.
From the farm equipment.
I remember seeing a few years back a program of this group of people talking about how they created these crop circles, and it was kind of interesting. And yes, but it would be like, 30, 40 people out there doing these projects. They were very well coordinated, doing it with, some cardboard.
Yeah.
They showed how they did. It was very interesting. But I always remember this thing I learned when I was about 9. 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead.
Say what?
3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead. So when you've got that many people out there making crop circles, it's gonna get all over the place.
There were
at
some
point.
other guys who did some more complicated ones besides Doug and Dave. But they were not as famous as Doug and Dave, and nor as prolific. I think they made more fancy ones. They think some of them definitely were made by creative guys, but there were a bunch of them they can't explain how they made them, and the creative guys did not do them.
Well, and like I say, you can't get 30 people together to do something like that and not one of them say something on social media.
Yeah, they would have said, look, I did it.
Yeah.
All right, ready to go?